Emergency lights cast crimson shadows across the command deck of the Valorous Dawn, flagship of the Zephyrian Third Fleet. Admiral Kextar's 4 eyes darted between tactical displays showing the approaching enemy vessels, sleek, obsidian, ships that seemed to absorb light itself. "The Umbral Syndicate," whispered Commander Velnari, her translator barely picking up the tremor in her voice. "They've found us." Across the bridge, every member of the crew exhibited the same telltale signs of terror that had plagued civilized species for millennia: dilated pupils, shallow breathing, instinctive huddling near light sources. The darkness between stars had always been humanity's domain alone, but now it bred something far worse than the void. "Their ships are designed to extinguish light itself," Kexter reported to the War Council via quantum link. "Our weapons cannot lock onto targets we cannot see. They move through shadows like—" He paused, searching for an appropriate comparison. "Like humans," finished Elder Thessian from her seat on the High Council. The admission hung heavy in the chamber's artificial atmosphere. It had taken the galaxy's combined civilizations 3 centuries to accept humanity into their fold. Every species that had evolved under the warm embrace of binary stars, or in the gentle glow of gas giants, found humanity's comfort with darkness deeply unsettling. How could a sentient species evolve to thrive in such conditions? How could they sleep in complete absence of light? How could they actually prefer it? The Umbral Syndicate had answered those questions in the most terrifying way possible. Unlike humanity, they hadn't simply adapted to darkness, they had become it. Their biotechnology fed on photons, creating expanding zones of absolute void around their vessels. Within these black spheres, conventional sensors failed, weapons misfired, and even the most seasoned warriors found themselves paralyzed by primal fear. "We need the human," Kextar announced, though the words felt like admitting defeat. Sarah Chen floated in the observation deck of her small frigate, Night's Edge, watching the distant battle through her ship's passive sensors. She'd been tracking the Syndicate for 3 months, ever since they'd started systematically extinguishing entire star systems. While the galactic fleets struggled with their limitations, she'd been learning. The comlink crackled to life. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Kextar of the Zephyrian Third Fleet. We require your assistance." Sarah smiled grimly. She'd been waiting for this call. "Copy that, Admiral. I'm reading 17 enemy vessels in your engagement zone. They're using photon absorption fields, creating spheres roughly 2 kilometers in diameter around each ship. How can you possibly know that?" Velnari's voice cut through the channel. "Our best sensors show nothing but void." "That's because you're looking for light," Sarah replied, already adjusting her ship's course toward the battle. "I'm looking for the absence of it." She'd grown up on Luna, in the deep mining colonies where artificial light was rationed and children learned to navigate by sound, touch, and spatial memory. Her parents had been part of the first wave of deep space explorers, humans who pushed into the galaxy's dark corners not despite the absence of light, but because of it. Where others saw emptiness, humans had always seen potential. Nights. "Edge to Fleet Command," Sarah broadcast on an open channel as she approached the engagement zone. "I'm painting targets for you now." Her ship's arrays weren't designed to detect photons, they measured their absence. Gravitational anomalies, heat signatures masked by darkness, the subtle electromagnetic fields that the Syndicate's ships still generated despite their cloaking. To Sarah's enhanced sensors, the enemy vessels stood out like beacons. "Impossible," breathed Kextar, as targeting data flooded his tactical display. "How are you—" "Admiral, respectfully, we can discuss methodology later. Right now you've got 17 hostiles bearing down on your position, and they're about to drop stealth." As if summoned by her words, the darkness around the fleet began to pulse. The Umbral ships emerged from their void fields like predators, stepping from shadow, their biomechanical hulls gleaming with absorbed starlight. Energy weapons that fed on darkness itself began to charge. "All vessels fire on transmitted coordinates," Kextar ordered. The combined firepower of 3 fleets lit up the void, and for the first time in months, Syndicate ships began to explode. But their return volley was devastating. Darkness spread like infection across the battlefield as more void fields expanded, swallowing Zephyrian vessels whole. "They're adapting," Sarah muttered, watching her displays. "Time for something they won't expect." She killed her ship's lights, all of them. Emergency illumination, console backlighting, even the soft glow of her instrumentation. The night's edge went completely dark, and Sarah felt the familiar comfort of absolute darkness embrace her. Moving by touch and memory, she redirected all power from life support and weapons to her engines. Her ship became a ghost, invisible even to the Syndicate's darkness-adapted sensors. In the void between their defensive fields, she danced. "Human vessel, we've lost your signal," Velnari called out in panic. "I'm exactly where I need to be," Sarah replied calmly. She'd studied the Syndicate ships for months, memorizing their weaknesses. The biomechanical organisms that powered their darkness fields required constant feeding. Starve them of energy, and they'd cannibalize their own vessels. Sarah began seeding the battlefield with specialized mines, devices that didn't explode, but rather generated intense bursts of specific electromagnetic frequencies that would cause the Syndicate's darkness feeders to turn on each other. One by one, the enemy ships began to implode as their own weapons consumed them. The darkness fields collapsed, revealing the true scope of their fleet and their terror. "You fight like shadows made flesh," came a transmission from the Syndicate command vessel, their first communication in any known language. "What manner of creature are you?" Sarah brought her lights back online slowly, letting the warm glow of her console displays return. Through her view screen, she could see the remaining Syndicate ships retreating into the deep void between systems. "I'm human," she replied simply, "and the darkness isn't my enemy, it's my home." As the Night's Edge rejoined the fleet formation, Admiral Kextar opened a private channel. "How long have your people been preparing for something like this?" Sarah looked out at the stars, scattered like distant campfires across the infinite dark. "We haven't been preparing for it, Admiral. We've been preparing for this moment our entire evolutionary history. Every human child who learned to sleep without a nightlight, every explorer who pushed into uncharted space, every miner who went deeper underground, we've all been getting ready." "For what?" "To show the galaxy that darkness isn't something to fear. It's something to master." The Umbral Syndicate would return, Sarah knew. But when they did, they'd find humanity waiting for them in the one place they thought they owned, the spaces between the stars, where light had never touched and never would. In the darkness that others called the void, humans had always called home.